Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, my name is Hairnisa Yasmin. As you already know in the previous video, I'm studying at IAIN Samarinda, majoring in English Education, Local 3, Semester 2. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about micro and macrolinguistics. Microlinguistics and macrolinguistics are both fields of study of linguistics that focus on language, its form, meaning, and the changes that occur to that form and meaning due to other factors. Microlinguistics examines language on a micro level, or in a more specific and particular way, while macrolinguistics examines language on a macro level, or from a more general perspective. Microlinguistics takes a closer look at language. Microlinguistics studies language and its properties, structure, and functions specifically, thus phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantics. Unlike macrolinguistics, microlinguistics is not concerned with the impact of language beyond the language itself. It studies languages purely in the abstract sense. Examples of this field could include the study of the formation of diphthongs, conventions of spelling, and the origins of specific words. Microlinguistics refers to how small changes in language evolve and affect the sound and look of language. For example, there, they are, and there all sound the same, but have small changes in the way they are spelled. Microlinguistics is often not interested in the meaning of words as much as the way the word sounds or is formed, and it is often represented at the individual level. Phonology. Phonology is the study of the patterns of sounds in a language and across languages. Put more formally, phonology is the study of the categorical organization of speech sounds in languages, how speech sounds are organized in the mind and used to convey meaning. Phonology looks at many different things, such as: Number 1. Why do related forms differ? Saying, sedity, electric, electricity, atom, atomic. Phonology finds the systematic ways in which the forms differ and explains them. Number 2. What is stored in the mind? Phonology studies abstract mental entities such as structures and process. This contrasts with phonetics, which deal with the actual production and acoustics of sounds of language. Number 3. What sounds go together? Phonology looks at what sounds or sound combinations are accepted and why. Number 4. How are sounds organized into syllables? With the use of phonological trees, syllables are broken up more easily. The explanation is like this. Syllables are made up of a rhyme and an onset, any consonants before the rhyme. Then, the rhyme made up of a nucleus, the vowel sound in the syllable, the key component of all syllables, and a coda, any consonants following the nucleus. Number 5. What are the differences between languages? For example, different languages can use different phonemes or different syllable structures. What sounds can go together to make sequences or words? And phonology identifies these differences. Morphology. Morphology is the study of the internal structure of words and forms a core part of linguistic study. The term morphology is from Greek and is a makeup of morph, which means shape or form, and ology, which means the study of something. Morphology as a subdiscipline of linguistics was named for the first time in 1859 by the German linguist August Schleicher, who used the term for the study of the form of words. Syntax. The study of syntax, therefore, looks at the ways in which the word categorized can be ordered and combined. This means that we look at the order or distribution of those categories. For instance, we can see that the example determiner, noun, verb, the dog runs is a sentence that a speaker of English could produce. So, we call this grammatical. However, we could not put this in the order noun, determiner, verb, dog runs, because this is not a sentence that can be produced by the rules of English. So, this is called ungrammatical. So, why is it that in English we cannot put this word categorized in this order? Why does this phrase no longer make sense? These are the sorts of questions syntacticians try to answer. Syntacticians are not here to say what is stylistically right or wrong, but to describe how people do use language. Has anybody ever told you not to end a sentence with a preposition? This perspective rule, which comes from Latin, is not actually how people speak English today. Example C. Who did you talk to? D. To whom did you talk? Instead of focusing on right versus wrong, syntax uses grammatical and ungrammatical as a way to show that a particular word combination is possible or impossible for speakers of a language. Look at this way, example D is less grammatical than example C, even though we thought that it's the right way to speak. Semantics. Semantics looks at these relationships in language and looks at how these meanings are created, which is an important part of understanding how language works as a whole. Understanding how meaning occurs in language can inform other subdisciplines, such as language acquisition, to help us to understand how speakers acquire a sense of meaning, and sociolinguistics, as the achievement of meaning in language is important in language in a social situation. Semantics is also informed by other subdisciplines of linguistics, such as morphology, as understanding the words themselves is integral to the study of their meaning and syntax, which researchers in semantics use extensively to reveal how meaning is created in language, as how language is structured is central to meaning. Unlike microlinguistics, macrolinguistics analyzes language beyond its most basic functions and context. It focuses on the social, cultural, psychological, and neurological factors that how they are connected to the language and its structure. Thus, there are several subcategories of macrolinguistics, such as psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, neurolinguistics, discourse analysis, applied linguistics, and forensic linguistics. Macrolinguistics focuses on language on a large scale and as a broad topic. Macrolinguistics involves the study of how language impacts societies and how social factors influence language. For instance, macrolinguistics may examine why Latin languages use gendered nouns, and Indo-Aryan languages do not. Someone studying this may have questions about how this distinction impacts social functions within societies. Macrolinguistics also involves looking at how whole languages and linguistic families evolve and develop, and it can be concerned with how language is acquired and stored in the brain. Macrolinguistics, in this sense, may examine how the Broca's area and Wernicke's area of the brain develop in relation to language acquisition as someone ages throughout infancy and childhood. Psycholinguistics, or the psychology of language, encompasses so many different aspects of language, from language acquisition to syntax and semantics, phonology and morphology. With current and future technological advances and with the collaboration of other disciplines, psycholinguistics aims to advance our understanding of the human brain. Psycholinguistics involves number 1, language processing, reading, writing, speaking, listening, and memory. For instance, how words on paper are turned into meaning in the mind. Number 2, lexical storage and retrieval, the way words are stored in our minds and used. How we are able to map words onto objects such as ball and actions such as kick and love and access this when needed. Number 3, language acquisition, how language is first learned and used by children. For example, learning the rules of grammar and how to communicate with other people. Number 4, special circumstances, how internal and external factors can impact language development, such as twins and their use of twin language. The influence of hearing and vision impairments on acquisition and how damage to the brain can affect certain aspects of language. Number 5, the brain and language. Evolutionary explanation of why humans have the capacity to use language and the parts of the brain concerned with different areas of language, also considering whether or not non-human animals have the ability to use language too. And number 6, second language acquisition and use. Looking at bilingualism and how individuals can learn a second language and are able to differentiate between them. The common aim of psycholinguistics is to find out about the structures and process which underlie a human's ability to speak and understand language. Sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is concerned with how language use interacts with or is affected by social factors such as gender, ethnicity, age, or social class, for instance. As Kalmas defines, it is the study of choice, and the principal task of sociolinguistics is to uncover, describe, and interpret the social motivated choices an individual makes. Sociolinguists are interested in how we speak differently in varying social contexts, and how we may also use specific functions of language to convey social meaning or aspects of our identity. Sociolinguistics teaches us about real-life attitudes and social situations. Neurolinguistics is the study of how language is represented in the brain. That is how and where our brains store our knowledge of the language or languages that we speak, understand, read, and write. What happens in our brains as we acquire that knowledge, and what happens as we use it in our everyday lives. Neurolinguists try to answer questions like this. What about our brains makes human language possible? Why is our communication system so elaborate and so different from that of other animals? Does language use the same kind of neural computation as other cognitive systems, such as music or mathematics? Where in your brain is a word that you've learned? How does a word come to mind when you need it, and why does it sometimes not come to you? And so on. As you can see, Neurolinguistics is deeply entwined with Psycholinguistics, which is the study of language processing steps that are required for speaking and understanding words and sentences, learning first and later languages, and also of language processing in disorders of speech, language, and reading. Discourse analysis, or text linguistics, is the study of the relationship between language and the context in which language is used. It deals with how sentences in spoken and written language form larger meaningful units. Discourse analysis is sometimes defined as the analysis of language beyond the sentence. This contrasts with types of analysis more typical of modern linguistics, which are chiefly concerned with the study of grammar. The study of smaller bits of language, such as sounds, parts of words, meaning, and the order of words in sentences. Discourse analysis study larger chunks of language as they flow together. Some discourse analysts consider the larger discourse context in order to understand how it affects the meaning of the sentence. For example, Charles Fillmore points out that two sentences taken together as a single discourse can have meanings different from each one taken separately. To illustrate, he asks you to imagine two independent signs at a swimming pool. Please use the toilet, not the pool, says one. The other announces, pool for members only. If you regard each sign independently, they seem quite reasonable. But taking them together as a single discourse makes you go back and revise your interpretation of the first sentence after you have read the second. Applied linguistics is primarily concerned with the application of linguistics theories, methods, and findings to the elucidation of language problems which have arisen in other areas of experience. The term applied linguistics refers to a broad range of activities which involve solving some language-related problem or addressing some language-related concern. It appears as though applied linguistics, at least in North America, was first officially recognized as an independent course at the University of Michigan in 1946. In those early days, the term was used both in the United States and Great Britain to refer to applying a so-called scientific approach to teaching foreign languages, including English for non-native speakers. In 1964, following 2 years of preparatory work financed by the Council of Europe, the International Association of Applied Linguistics, usually referred to by the French acronym ILA, was founded and its first international congress was held in Nancy, France. Papers for the congress were solicited in two distinct strands: foreign language teaching and automatic translation. Over the intervening years, the foci of attention have continued to broaden. Today, the governing board of ILA describes applied linguistics as a means to help solve specific problems in society. Applied linguistics focuses on the numerous and complex areas in society in which language plays a role. Forensic linguistics. Forensic linguistics legal linguistics, or language and the law, is the application of linguistic knowledge, methods, and insights to the forensic context of law, language, crime investigation, trial, and judicial procedure. One of the main goals of forensic linguistics is to provide a careful and systematic analysis of language. The results of this analysis can be used by many different professionals. For example, police officers can use this evidence not only to interview witnesses and suspects more effectively, but also to solve crimes more reliably. Lawyers, judges, and jury members can use this analysis to help evaluate questions of guilt and innocence more fairly. And translators and interpreters can use this research to communicate with greater accuracy. Forensic linguistics serves justice and helps people to find the truth when a crime has been committed. Importantly, the work of forensic linguistics is not only used to find the guilty, but also to protect the innocent. An excellent example of how this can be done involves a special fixed-form written text called the Miranda warnings. Most of us who have watched a crime show are familiar with the scene where the police tell a person they are placing under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The words in this text are very important because they inform people about their rights and protections under the law. The fact that someone has been arrested does not necessarily mean that he or she is guilty, and even when a suspected person did commit a crime, the police are still bound by law to make sure that the laws of the country are respected and protected. To help ensure that these regulations and procedures are always respected, police are required in many countries to read out formal text. In the United States, this text is called the Miranda warnings. Forensic linguists who specialize in the analysis of Miranda rights can show how variation in how the text is read can alter the way it is understood. They might also investigate how translations of the text might change the original legal intention. So friends, macrolinguistics studies language and the influences on language in general, while microlinguistics studies language and all of its properties, elements, and concepts in greater detail. Some argue that macrolinguistics focuses more on society and the way it influences language, while macrolinguistics focuses more on language itself and its elements. And friends, I think that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.